Myra could tell that there was something wrong with Rokuro. The rather boisterous 14-year-old was now more quiet, more reserved, even for his usual standards. Of course, they had grown up together, childhood friends and all that, a bond like that of brother and sister. After all, Myra was the granddaughter of Ji-sama. Though she never showed interest in being an exorcist, she was still supportive of the cause. And of course, she knew the dangers that came along with it. She never pried into Rokuro's life. She always made sure to keep her distance, to give him space, allowing him time to be himself, and also allowing him to grieve. When Rokuro came back, when he gave up being an exorcist, she was one of the few people that never judged him for his actions. Even when he was cold and distant from the world, she always chose to see the bright side of things. It meant she could spend more time with her friend. It meant he wouldn't be in danger. She was always seeing the bigger picture. And to a degree, Rokuro was grateful for that. But of course, there was always another underlying issue. Deep down, she knew that Rokuro wanted to be an exorcist again. Every time the others went out on a mission, she saw that look in his eyes, as if there was something holding him back. Whatever he experienced in the past, it must have been great enough for him to hold himself, to not want to jump right back in. And she'd never be the one to force him to do it. Of course, though, for today of all days, Rokuro was deep in thought. He was hardly paying attention in class, save for the arrival of a new student, a transfer from Kyoto, a girl by the name of Benio Adashino. Rokuro's eyes perked up at the front of the class, the two of them locking contact with one another before quickly turning away in disdain. For Myra, she knew that they must know each other somehow, and it was easy to see that they didn't get along well. By the time lunch came around, Rokuro was sitting by himself as Myra would approach. "Rokuro, have you seen Benio anywhere? I was hoping that I could show her around during lunch. You know, since I'm the class president and everything." "She probably likes to eat in solitude, and it's probably for the best." "You two seem to know each other. Are you friends?" "I wouldn't even go so far as to call us that. Barely even associates." "So you do know her? Well, I'm guessing she must be a part of the Exorcist business too, huh?" "Yeah, that's a way of putting it." "What's been off with you, Roku? You've been looking sad and depressed all day, like you got a storm cloud over your head. I know that things didn't go well for you in gym class, but that doesn't mean you have to give up your dreams of being a soccer star, although you also had dreams of being a famous actor and a rock and roll enthusiast. I have to say, you have a lot of dreams." "Yeah, and they never seem to come true. But yeah, I always get someone else's dreams shoved on top of me." "What do you mean by that?" Rokuro would try to explain the whole twin star business. Myra was shocked, to say the least. "No way! You're the reincarnate of some hawk god thingy? And that Benio girl, you're gonna get married and have kids?" "No one said anything about getting married or having children. I don't want anything to do with that witch. Personally, I'll be happy when all this business is behind me and she goes back to whatever hole she crawled from." "Well, that's kind of harsh, don't you think?" "Well, what else am I supposed to do?" "All I wanted was to be left alone, to live a normal life. And now, not only do I get dragged back into all this nonsense, but now I'm told that I'm supposed to marry some girl that I don't even like. And why? Because we're the reincarnates of previous lovers. Oh, please, this is terrible sitcom 101. Terrible sitcom? Come on, you know what I'm talking about. The story about enemies to lovers. You see it in media all the time. A girl, a boy, polar opposites in every single way that counts. But oh, they're just supposed to magically get together because of fate. That's somehow become my life. I don't want to have anything to do with being an exorcist. And I don't want to have anything to do with being with her. I would rather die alone in a miserable little hut, having never experienced true love before I ever have to settle with the likes of her. And don't worry, she feels exactly the same way about me. And Rokuro wasn't wrong about that. Benio tried to focus in class, but through the whole day, it kept eating at her mind. Of all the people in the world, why him? A boy with no ambitions, someone with all the talent in the world but gave up being an exorcist. She couldn't bring herself to love someone like him, let alone marry them or sire a child together. It was ridiculous. It was the dumbest notion she could have ever heard of. If they really needed a powerful exorcist to defeat all the Kagare, she was right there. Why not just train her up? Give her everything she needs. She could do the work, no matter how hard it may have seemed. She would have done anything, endured any punishment, but to be settled down with him, to have her career be just put on hold or possibly taken away. And why? Also, they could make a child, and that child would be the one to deal with the Kagare. How foolish! Benio simply ate on her ohagi, but she could feel another presence. Her familiar Kiniko would alert her to a growing swarm of Kagare nearby. Meanwhile, in Magano, Ryogu, along with Shinosuke and Atashi, would be battling against a horde of Kagare. For Shinosuke and for Atsui, they were ready to call in the reinforcements. Ryogu had different plans, though. The Kagare are starting to get a lot stronger. Yeah, and they're coming a lot faster than they used to, Atsui said. Perhaps we should call Benio and Rokuro. You saw the power they displayed in their fight. If they were here, we'd be able to take care of all these Kagare, no problem. No, Ryogu said. We're not calling them. They need to focus on school. But isn't this more important? What if we get overran? The city's going to be in danger. We need help, Shinosuke would say. Don't you guys have any pride in being exorcists? The two were taken aback by Ryogo and by what he said, but they could feel a faint anger growing inside of him. It wasn't jealousy. No, nothing like that. There were always more powerful exorcists in the world. Ryogo had no qualms with this idea. He didn't plan on being the strongest, but he was a lot stronger than this. Benio and Rokuro, announced to be the Twin Star Exorcists, said to be the most powerful of their generation, who would bring forth a child even stronger than them. Then, of course, you had the 12 Guardians. You had other masters all around. Everyone who held some title of relevancy. But for them, when it came to the exorcist community, they were the low end of the spectrum. The good foot soldiers who were able to hold down the fort in case the stronger ones were needed. And sure, Ryugo had no problem with this. He viewed it as an honor to serve, but after a while it became grating. The others watched as he started slashing down Kagare after Kagare. They could feel his fighting spirit starting to rise. We're all exorcists, aren't we? So why? Why do they have to put it all on them? They're just kids. They haven't even lived their life yet. and yet they're being settled down with things like marriage, having a child, all while trying to become exorcists to overcome their own struggles. It's selfish, that's what it is. And I view it as an insult. An insult? Shiosuke would say. I'm an exorcist too. I train day in and day out. I work my hands to the grindstone. I beat myself into the ground until there's nothing left. And I get back up. And I do it over and over again. If every 5 minutes I have to call on someone for help, if at every little inconvenience I can't stand on my own 2 feet, then what the hell am I doing? I'm the leader of the Seika dorms. You all are supposed to be able to look up to me. How can I even call myself a leader when I allow everyone to pass me up? Well, I've had it. A more larger and giant-sized Kagare began stepping to them. The others were ready to retreat, but Ryogo, he had different ideas. As he pulled out a dark blue talisman. No way, Atsui would say. You're gonna use that thing? Have you even mastered it? Shinosuke would ask. The last time you tried to use it, you barely survived 30 seconds. You were almost completely exhausted. That was a year ago. I've gotten a whole lot stronger since. Keep the smaller ones off my back and stand behind me. I'll make sure you guys don't get crushed. I'll finish this in one shot. Now, Kyonjin Talisman, Blessings of the Giant, come forth at once! Ryogo would then feel sparks of blue and red energy flowing all around him. He began to enlarge himself, his clothing also changing in color, as a mask would form on his face. This was a special talisman that he had been working on, one personally developed to give him an extra boost in strength. This was the form that Ryogo called the Atom Smasher, a spell that would allow him to transform his mass and size to grow to that of a giant, although the growth was solely dependent on him. However long he could handle the strain, the larger he could grow in size. It was something he had been tinkering with for a while, much to Ji-sama's discretion. He remembered the words of his master. While it is true that growing in size will give you an extra benefit in strength, using that much energy into a spell, it can take a lot out of you, Ryogo. Remember, the larger you grow, the shorter you'll be able to maintain the form. The last time Ryogo had used this form, he only lasted 30 seconds. And even then, he couldn't achieve the desired outcome he had wished for. But through countless training and through recent motivation, he now grew to the size of the towering Kagare. How do you like this? It's something I've been working on just for people like you. The bigger you are, the harder you fall. The others would watch his back as he fought against the giant Kagare. He could maintain this form every once 24 hours, and he could hold it for 3 minutes max. If he tried to push himself any further, he'd start eating into his own life force just to maintain the spell. And that was usually a recipe for disaster, since it would lead almost certainly to his death. Meanwhile at school, Benio, feeling the growing presence of the Kagare, could no longer ignore it. Without hesitating, she would ask for Myra to make an excuse for her. She was going to be leaving class early to help the others. As Rokuro noticed, he would call out to her, asking where she was going. She didn't mince words about the topic. She was going to help the others in Magano and asked if he would come along. It was a long shot, but she hoped that maybe, Just maybe that their brief encounter would have at least lit the spark back in him. She might not have liked him as a person, but she could recognize strength, and Rokuro had a great power to him. But of course, Rokuro's stubbornness and pride wouldn't allow him to take that step. With that, Benio would head off to Magano, and she would arrive just in time, as Ryogo would reach his limit, shrinking back down in size and turning back to normal. And here I thought I was buying you guys a day off. Just take a moment and rest yourself. I'll take care of things from here. Benio would activate multiple spells at once, increasing the durability and strength of her arms, her legs, her body, her face, as well as igniting her blades, as she battled against the more swarming Kagare, leaving the others to play on defense. For Rokuro, he continued on with his day, though in school, he couldn't help but think about Benio, her words. She didn't know him. She didn't know anything about him. This twin star nonsense, it wasn't going to get them anywhere. Only a fool chose to be an exorcist. As class was let out for the day and everyone was going home, Myra would offer for Rokuro to go with her to the amusement park, a place they often enjoyed as kids, and where Rokuro overcame some of his greatest fears, including fear of heights, though that only came because Myra's dad had been so tough on him. He still remembered when Sagan would call him a wimp and a coward and just be a man and get on the damn ride. Sure, he did, but his pride was hurt. Those were not good times. But you had a lot of fun, didn't you? I mean, after you stopped crying once you got on top of the point of the roller coaster. I was just nervous. Besides, I'm older now. I'm more mature. I don't get scared about stuff like that. Though Myra's point was proven 5 minutes later when they were on the Gravitron and Rokuro was spinning for his life. But they had fun. Myra could see the spark of joy that he once had, and she was happy to help. And for Rokuro, even though he didn't feel better all the way, he was grateful to her for giving him a little bit of clarity. As the two were preparing to head home, the effects of Magano came into their world. On one of the tallest roller coasters in the park, a group of kids found themselves stuck after the ride had been damaged, the cart teetering on the edge to falling, plummeting almost 30 feet in what likely would have been their doom. Myra was worried as the ground started to shake, the feelings of an earthquake starting to hit. Rokuro would escort her to safety before rushing up the roller coaster itself. She watched as he climbed without hesitating. As much as she was scared for herself and for him, this was one of the many things that she admired about him. As much as he tried to act like a hard ass, as much as he tried to act like he was nonchalant, like nothing bothered him at all, Rokuro had the heart of a hero. Even when he was hurt, really hurt, he couldn't turn his back on others that needed help. It was something he viewed as a fatal flaw, but for her, it was one of his greatest qualities. As Rokuro made his way to the top, there were 3 kids stuck in one of the carts. Most had been able to be evacuated, but it was just them. One by one, Rokuro would attempt to pull the kids out, but there was one final kid too scared to move. I don't think I can move. Come on, kid, just grab my hand. I'm not going to let you fall, I promise. But I'm scared. It's okay to be scared. We're all scared sometimes. Even me, right now, being all the way up here. Then why did you come here then if you're so scared? Because even when you're scared, you have to do something. You can't just sit still. You won't get anywhere doing that. Rokuro would extend himself. As the little kid reached further, the cart would start to slip back and fall. The kid's eyes began to panic as Rokuro watched. In that moment, time and everything else seemed to stand still in that moment. He was taken back to that point in the past. The night he lost everything. His heart, it began to beat. It sounded like a drum in his ears that were burning hot. Not again. Not again. Please, God, not again. Without even thinking, Rokuro jumped from the top of the structure. The astral wings beginning to project themselves from his back. Before the little boy could even hit the ground, Rokuro swooped in and grabbed him. Though he didn't see where he was going, and the two of them ended up crashing into a dumpster. The others, being helped down, would run to the aid of their friend. For Rokuro, his body simply reacted without him thinking. He jumped to save that child. Thank you, mister. Yeah, kid. No problem. I smell like crap. Meanwhile, in Magano, Benio would finish off the last of the Kagare. Even while in the other world, she could feel a faint trace of powerful energy. Was it him? No, she had to be imagining it. There was no way that Rokuro would get involved in any of this madness. He made that very clear. As Myra and Rokuro left the park, now as everyone was escorted safely back home, she couldn't help but feel a strong sense of pride. He may not have been there all the way, but she just had to be patient. Eventually, Rokuro would find his true self. The self that really made him happy. As Rokuro came home, the others would be arriving at around the same time. Everyone excited to tell him about their journey in Magano, about how Rogu had managed to use his Atom Smasher form, or how Benio had managed to take out a swarm of Kagare, all on her own. But for Benio, it was a piece of cake. As they asked Rokuro about his day, he didn't have much to tell them. For him, he didn't really do much. Doing the right thing, there was nothing to brag about. For him, it was just business as usual. But Benio could see it. The tatters on his clothes. She wasn't sure what he had done. But perhaps there was more to him. More than met the eye. Meanwhile, under the cover of night, Chief Exorcist Arima calls forth all of the 12 guardians as they gaze upon the open sky and the 2 stars that shimmer above them. 12 guardians, can you not feel the change in the tide of war? The twin stars have been reborn into this generation. Once again, hope falls upon humanity. As the 12 guardians looked on, one felt the need to speak. With all due respect, Chief Arima, I can believe that the girl of the Adashino clan is one of the twin stars. It would only make sense. But we don't know anything about this Rokuro. What makes you think that he's worthy to be one of the twin stars? You can hear the testimony for yourself. It was witnessed. The power of the hawk, Aquila, manifested in the boy, same as the girl. That may be. But now that the power has awakened, surely you've heard of what comes after. I am aware. The curse of the hawk. It happens with every pair that's reincarnated from the very beginning. They come together and they die. No time has a Miku ever been born between any of the reincarnates. It never gets that far. So why go forth and tell us now? Because I think this time we can get ahead of the situation before the curse can even take effect. The Miku, I believe that is the hope for our future. The only hope. What about you, Master Sagan? After all, you trained Rokuro. What is your opinion about the boy? My opinion? He's a brat who runs away and never learns to clean up his mess. That boy is anything but an exorcist, let alone a twin-star exorcist. You'd be better off calling in amateurs before you ever call on him. My, you certainly have a strong opinion of him. It's not an opinion. It's a fact of life. Sagan would stand from his chair as he began to leave. It was time to beat some sense into his old student once again. Nip this in the bud before it got too far, or people would get hurt. This concludes Twin Star Exorcist Reborn. What if Rokuro and Benio were Hawkman and Hawkgirl? Season 1, Part 2. As always, if you enjoyed today's video and everything else that we have to offer, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is PowerCore Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned next time as we continue with Twin Star Exorcist Reborn. What if Rokuro and Benio were Hawkman and Hawkgirl? Season 1, Part 3. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with PowerCore Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.